What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of All Things Super. I am one of your hosts, Spider, and I am joined by Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington. How are you doing today, sir?
I am infinitely awesome. There it is.
There it
Did we
is.
catch it on the mic? Because you
We
know
caught
this
it.
mic is temperamental. Temperamental.
Listen, as long as you're not yelling and screaming at the top of your lungs, you're all right.
Let's test it out. Let's test it out. I am infinitely awesome.
It surprisingly picked up every single syllable of that.
I learned that from Black. Oh, never mind. He did. He just dead in the MCU. His brain's hanging out of his helmet. God damn, Wanda. Wanda is something else, dude.
What
So
mouth?
take the man's mouth,
What mouth?
Matrix style, and just he panics and just.
I mean, to be fair, in that situation, he killed himself. All she did was take his mouth away. She didn't force him to speak. She didn't force him to speak.
So
I'm just saying.
mouth is going, like your mouth is going, and you feel it is going, and what you gonna do? Scream for help, right?
He
You
knows his
wondering
own
what the
powers.
hell's going? Damn!
I'm
So you
just
said it's
saying.
his fault.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
Out of
Hashtag
everybody.
Wanda was right. Hashtag Wanda was right. Damn.
Hashtag what
This
mouth? I'm just saying.
That's messed up.
I'm just saying. The rest of them, no. The rest of them, she killed. That was all on her. That was 100% Wanda.
What? Well, I mean, why Captain Marvel died though?
I mean, she dropped the statue on her.
Captain Marvel has been known going through spaceships and surviving all kind of energy blast and
different Captain Marvel. I don't know.
Oh, so you go downplay the black Captain Marvel?
Well, what I was about to say was we don't know for sure if she's dead, because she very well might not be.
Marvel is not going to kill off one of the popular IVs. I don't care which version they're in. You go see that little hand start to twitch, and then that black girl magic will come through that rubber and be like, "What a bitch at? What a bitch at now?" Oh, okay. She. I just about to run on her. She lucky she don't went back to her dimension. So I would like to see where they go with that. But before we get into all that, because that's like a whole nother video.
That's a whole different.
Go ahead and finish your. Go ahead and finish your prologue.
Yes.
Y'all see that? I learned that word, prologue.
But if you didn't know, this is All Things Super, where every week we take a piece of superpowered movie, TV, trailers, we watch them, we react to them, we break it down, we review it, and we answer the question, is it super? But if you like that, you can go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click on the notification bell so you can be notified when we have a new episode that come out. It was like, I got to get warmed up. It's been a while.
Yeah, do your thing, man. Do your thing.
But if you want the audio version, you can find us on your major podcast streaming services. And you can reach out to us and join in the conversation by tweeting us at ATSuperPod. But this week, it's wrapped up. It's all done.
It is.
We're talking about the Disney Plus show, the newest Disney Plus show from the MCU. We're talking about Miss Marvel. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Miss Marvel.
Are we doing spoilers? No
spoilers. Full spoilers. Full spoilers. Let's talk about it. We got 6 episodes. We got 6 episodes for Miss Marvel. A little bit all over the place. I will say that.
Wait. I want to give out this disclaimer. So those who are new to All Things Super, for my people that's on the podcast, I am holding up my All Things Super merch shirt. If you guys want merch, let us know. It's up to y'all. If you say no, then we won't bother you with it. But if you say yes, we'll get it to you. Anyway, this show does not discriminate at all. We let you have it. Listen, The thoughts and opinions on all things super are strictly between Spider and Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington himself. You may agree, you may not agree. One thing I will guarantee, we have a different perspective that you weren't actually aware of unless you watch this podcast or listen to it on your favorite podcast streaming services. So if you do agree and like the content, subscribe. You'll get more. If you don't agree and like the content, subscribe because I'm sure you need something to troll. Why not us? Might as well troll us.
There you
But we're
go.
going to talk about Miss Marvel. And let me get into it, Spider, because I know you guys that watch this show say that guy, Mr. VIP, is always negative. He's always trolling. He's saying something bad about my favorite MCU property. I don't. I don't always say something negative. I say what my opinion is about what I witnessed or what I saw, and I give props to those who deserve it. This show deserves it. It deserves it. It deserves to be watched. It deserves props. It deserves accolades. They started out so different, so clever. Not so different and so clever as it has never been seen before, but the way they incorporated it, and even though they were aiming towards a younger demographic, aiming towards a younger crowd, younger audience, it was still good content for a family to watch, excuse me, for any family to watch, not just Pakistani or Indian. If that was with your reservation of staying away from this, then you're missing out because clearly it was a good show. If I'm saying it was, not to say it doesn't have its issues, and I'll get into that in a little bit because you know we keep it real here. But overall, it was educational. If you did not know about the divide or what happened with the separations of the whole country,
Partition.
it goes into that the partition. It goes into that and it goes into that tastefully. The
Yes.
wardrobe choices were tastefully done. They were very colorful. It was very when it went over there to Pakistan, I felt like I was there. I was like, yep, I believe that. Yep, that I can see that. Yep. I don't know if they shot it on location or if they just made it up in the studio, but it definitely looked authentic. Spider, don't hold back. Tell the people what you think.
I loved it. I thought it
And I
was
didn't spoil anything. Look at
well, you said they went to Pakistan, so there you go.
that.
Spoilers. Spoilers, they went to
I mean,
Pakistan.
it's a Pakistani movie. I mean, Pakistani TV show. If you didn't give me Pakistan, it's like watching Moon Knight. You're not gonna give me Egypt. Come on, man. You gotta go to Pakistan.
But I was just thinking about that and just going to what you were saying, how you said when they went to Pakistan, you actually felt like they were in Pakistan. You felt like you were there. You felt like this is authentic. I don't know what the difference in between Miss Marvel and them going to Karachi and then Moon Knight and them going to Egypt, like why it felt so different. But in Moon Knight, it felt like when they were in their Egypt setting, it felt like they were on a sound stage, on a set. Like, I don't know if they filmed on location while they were in Egypt, but for what I saw in Moon Knight, it really felt like they were on a set. It didn't feel like it was real. But for Miss Marvel, it really felt like, and I'm more than sure that they actually went to Pakistan. If they didn't, that set design was on
Amazing.
point, 100%. Like, I've never been to Karachi, so I don't know if that's accurate or factual, but it looked
Right.
like they were actually there. So if they weren't there, kudos, props to the set designers. If they were there, great choice in actually filming on location, because I don't think you could get that authentic, you know, authentic South Asian feel without being in that environment. But all that being said, I thought it was a great show. Like you said, there were a couple things that I had a little bit of issue with that kind of didn't make sense to me. But at the end of the day, like you said,
Like
this
what?
show. Oh, we'll get into it in a second.
Ooh. Y'all
But
stay tuned.
but like you said, you could tell that this show was geared towards a younger audience. Not to say
Mhm.
that adult Marvel fans wouldn't be able to enjoy it, but there were some elements like the high school element. Anytime you bring in a high school element and you have some type of love interest or romantic interest and everything, it's going to skew towards the younger people. And even for those moments, because I remember when we watched the trailer, we were thinking that okay, this is probably going to lend a lot into like high school type thing, Mean Girls type thing, because in the trailer they were talking about Zoe and how Zoe was the popular girl in school and how Kamala wasn't necessarily as popular. So we were thinking, okay, well, this is going to be her rival, and he didn't go into that at all. The portions of it that were actually in the high school that dealt with sort of teen drama was very
Right,
minimal. But even for those
right.
minimal parts that they featured in the show, I still enjoyed it. It wasn't like it took me out. I was like, okay, I can't relate to this because I'm well in my 30s now. And but it still was.
Wow, dude, you look good. You look good to be in your 30s, dude. What you doing? Is that like a toner or something? I need something for my face.
I'll send you my skin regimen in Discord later after the show. Um, but no, it just I was still, even though I'm so far removed from high school, I can still relate to it. Just like the whole the counselor thing, the counselor kind of telling you, okay, you got to kind of get your life in order. You got to think about college. You got to worry about your priorities. You can't just daydream all the time. It's like I still feel that because it's like that's something that never goes away. You're always going to have people trying to tell you you can't do this or you can't be yourself because you have to conform to what society wants you to be. You have to go to college. You have to get this career. You have to work this job. You have to act a certain way. And it's like, it's so,
Do I?
but
Do
it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It was so fitting that one of the first songs that they used in the show was Blinded by the Lights by The Weeknd, because it's like Kamala's imagination. We initially thought that she was being blinded by our imagination and she was basically shutting out the real world and living in its fantasy world. But in
right,
actuality, what it was is that she's blinded by the lights because she wants to propel herself into this. It's not that she's bigger than reality, but she's destined for so much more. It's like there's so much
right.
more in her future. The lights are so bright, like she's going towards greatness. And I love that analogy. And I don't know. For me, I really enjoyed the show. Like I said, there were some gripes, some complaints, but overall, I enjoyed the show.
Can the weekend do any wrong? This dude is so talented. I
The
mean,
Weeknd
I know
is
he didn't
talented.
have much to do with them picking his song. Obviously, they
Hmm.
picked it and had to get it cleared. But he could have been like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want my song affiliated with that."
Right.
But you're right. This is how it works. You got to get the songs cleared. So obviously, he's aware of what's going on. Phenomenal song, phenomenal show. I want to talk about more goods before I get into the bad.
Right.
This show did a great job at pacing. They did a great job at setting up the characters. Notice we did not get the intro to Kamala's female best friend until episode 2. It was all about, yes, I'm going to say it, Bruno. We don't talk about
Poor
Bruno.
Bruno. Poor Bruno.
Why did they friend zone my boy Bruno? Listen, we're in we're in spoiler territory, okay? So why did they friend zone my boy Bruno? I'm thinking Bruno was gonna come out the victor. I'm thinking Bruno is getting set up to be a villain the way things are going, because
No.
clearly Bruno likes Kamala.
Clearly,
Clearly
yes,
Bruno's
but
he
I
he, he I feel like it's a Star Wars Ray Finn type of situation, and all he's gonna do is just start screaming her name throughout the whole movie. I'm talking about when Finn was Ray, 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 Ray. Where's Ray? Where's Ray? So now we're gonna get Kamala, 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 Kamala. Where's Kamala? And there's so much more that they could do with the character. I just they didn't really have much journey for him. And I can understand the balance in that because we have 3 love interests. We got the Red Daggers. I don't remember the gentleman's name.
yeah, I'm not
Then we
sure. I don't remember
have
his name either.
we, we have Cameron, and then we have Bruno. Wow, a girl's got to have options, but I understand. It looked like it would have been Cameron. I mean, it's Cameron, so you know how you not gonna pick Cameron? you you're not gonna pick Bruno over Cameron.
I
But at the
mean,
same time, she got that Pakistani delight that she can go back and get Ray Dagged up. There's so many places that they could go with the show. I am interested to see if they're going to do like a season two. I mean, clearly she's coming back to be in the Marvels,
right.
and we're gonna see. All right, I'm sorry, guys. I gotta do it. I was trying to give you guys so much, not spoiler. But if you haven't seen Ms. Marvel, go watch the show. Come back, watch us. You'll be happy that you did because I really don't want to spoil it for you. But if you're listening to this point, I'm pretty sure you're very aware that I'm going to spoil it continuously. So what I'm saying is clearly they're coming back for the Marvels. We got a post-credit scene that opens up many, many questions about Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, switching sides with Kamala. Something's going on there that's making them switch locations. By the way,
Right.
Brie Larson looks awesome. I
He
don't care what
does.
nobody says. Brie Larson could get it. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. Y'all can say what y'all want. Call me Brie. Get it.
I'm guessing that Keisha left the room.
Keisha could be in the room. That's you get it. You can lie about it. She could watch or participate. I don't know what's going on. It's just, what is in his cup?
I don't know. You
I need
stopped in the
more of
middle of your
this.
thought. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, but I'm saying something's going on that they're switching locations. So
Right.
I want to see where this is going and how's that going to play into the Marvels. Um, there's so much going on in this story, and I think they did a good job of telling it. Again, we don't sugarcoat on this show. There were some issues for me
Right.
personally. I felt like we were going strong. One, two, three. I'm talking about the way they incorporated the text into the scenery, the
Mm-hmm.
way they introduced the character slow and slow. Like I said, they introduced Bruno first, then they introduced our best friend. Then we got the I don't want to disrespect the shaman. Is he a shaman
In the
at the
mosque,
mosque?
the sheik.
At the mosque, the sheik. Okay, so we got the sheik. Before that, we got more of the parents, and it was a good pacing. It was just good. It was just
Mm-hmm.
good. Then we got to the second to last episode of the series, and then ultimately the last episode of the series. And for me, it seemed like the old Disney magic. Hurry up,
Right.
hurry up and wrap it up because we had a lot of beats back to back that just didn't feel like they were paced correctly. And your cliffhanger didn't really leave us on a cliff. It kind of left us like wanting to jump off of it. The second to last episode was like the weakest episode. It was like the weakest one out the series. And I was sitting there and watching like, the fuck is this? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm enjoying everything. Then we got to that episode. It's like, if you wonder what this episode I'm talking about when we had our villain. She did a great job playing the villain. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with names. You can
Najima.
hit me up in the comments. See, I would have butchered that. I would rather not butcher it. She sacrificed herself and sent her essence to Cameron, right? It just seemed like a weird heel turn. It's like, you got Cameron, you can live for him. After you just watched someone else go through the portal and die, is what made you think, oh, I got this. I know what it need. And you did walk through the portal and died still.
And I
You
think
still died.
I think that it was poorly explained But I think what she was attempting to do was Kamala was basically telling her that if you let because they pierced the veil was going to open. It was going to open up
Uh-huh.
a rift in the dimensions between the Noor dimension and our dimension of this world. And if the
Uh-huh.
dimension were to open, then it would destroy our world. So I think Kamala was trying to convey to her that if you let the portal open, then everyone's going to die. And she was like, well,
So
this is
is
my
this an
home. This is what I have to
incursion?
do. Possibly.
Is this an incursion? So
Because
we
I
have
mean
an
they
incursion on
essentially
different
said,
levels.
well, because they say and they explained in Multiverse of Madness that incursion is two universes collapsing on each other or colliding with each other. So I don't know, and that's kind of the whole conversation we was talking about before, the difference between a universe and a dimension, or a difference between a universe and a timeline. So
Right?
the MCU still hasn't made that distinction and made it clear which one is which. So are we is another universe the same thing? I think a universe is different than a dimension because you have the dark dimension, you have the Nord dimension, we have the ancestral
We have the
plane, which is
shadow
considered another dimension,
world,
right? And so
right?
you have these different dimensions that exist in the same universe, but
Hmm.
another universe, like the difference between 616 and 838, these are, you have different variants of yourself in different universes. So I think that's the distinction between a universe and a dimension. So it may not necessarily be an incursion for one dimension to collide with another dimension. I think there just may just be some type of cataclysmic type of thing. So I don't know if that's necessarily an incursion as well. If they come out and say that that's also an incursion, then I don't know.
Madness is for all of us to go through these multiverses.
Right.
That's what it
That's where the
is.
madness comes in. Us trying to understand it all. But I think that what Najima was trying to do was when Kamala was like, you have Kamran, you know, if this dimension is destroyed, then Kamran is gonna die. And so I think what she was doing was she gave her light to Kamran and then she sacrificed herself to close the dimension, to close the portal, which one, I don't know how she knew how to do that. Two, they never really explained. Like that's exactly what she was trying to do. That's what my guess is
Right.
because
I'm
that's
trying.
what
I'm trying
happened.
to open this thing. Now that it's open, I'm like, I guess I'll close it.
Right.
Like
The turn was so sudden that there was no
abrupt.
chance
Right.
for there was no room for character development to switch because 2 seconds ago you were just trying to kill Kamala and get the bangle off her arm so you could go through the rift. Now, because she said Kamran's name, all of a sudden your whole demeanor changed, your whole motives changed, and we didn't
What
even
is
know
going on
that.
with?
What's going on with
Go
what?
ahead. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I
No,
was
no,
going to
no.
say
Go
we
ahead.
didn't even know that you could transfer your light like that because she said when Najima first introduced herself to Kamala, she was saying that we all have this light power within us, and Kamran is a teenager, and his powers haven't been realized yet. So we were just thinking that okay, well he just has to like awaken the light inside himself, and it's going to come at a later point or whatever. There's nothing that said anything about a person being able to transfer their light to someone else. It's like this is a whole new power set or move that was never introduced, it was never talked about, it was never mentioned. So it happened. So how the payoff wasn't there because it was like this is something new that you're introducing, and it's like it's
Why should we?
out of left
Why should we
field. So
care?
it causes more questions
Right.
than it answers.
Here's the question I was gonna ask.
Mm-hmm.
When did Disney start being okay with like child murders? Between Love and Thunder and Ms. Marvel, we got a lot of kids going into battle. I mean, not going into battle, but just in Thor: Love and Thunder. Yes, a smaller warning if you didn't see Thor: Love and Listen, when I go all things are on the
Everything's
table.
getting
Okay,
spoiled.
everything's getting small, like old milk. So, so what I'm saying is, this show clearly had the Department of Defense, DoD. That's what they
Department of
are, right?
Damage Control,
Department of. Yeah, that's
DODC.
well, I got the acronym right. So
Close.
there's nowhere near. I was all the way wrong. I was all the way wrong. I should never claim that I was right, and it's my fault. They're shooting children. They're shooting at children. They're shooting, and they're not shooting trank guns. They're blowing the wall. There's a hole in the wall. It's like, when did this become okay?
They did make the point to say that they were using non-lethal rounds. I don't know what I've never seen a non-lethal round come out of a pistol, because they were using pistols and like assault rifle type weapons. Normally I'll see like a beanbag gun is like normally in a shotgun.
Right.
This was like an AR.
They do in their defense, they do have rubber bullets. They have rubber bullets.
That is true.
But that energy weapon, there is no way you're gonna tell me that's friendly.
I mean,
they were blowing chunks out of the cinder blocks.
When they were firing at the kids, they turned it down. It's like a trigger pull. It's like you pull it soft, it's a softer shot. You pull it harder, it's like it blow a hole in the wall. No, I'm with you 100%.
It's like, damn, Disney, what are we doing? It was like WandaVision. I told you I'm spoiling everything. WandaVision, Hayward shot at children. If it wasn't for Monica Rambeau jumping in, Monica or Maria?
Monica
jumping in, stopping the bullets, you would have killed. First of all, if that would have happened, that Wanda right there would have popped some heads. I can tell you. Yeah. Oh my God!
And I mean, Disney, technically, they weren't real. So could they have really died?
They were real inside the hex.
But they were made of magic. They weren't made of flesh and blood.
Love, like all mothers do when they make children. They make them with love. Argue that one.
Fair enough.
But I'm saying there's a lot of children murders going on.
But nobody's been murdered, though. There's a lot of children being attacked. None of them have died. How
old was Echo?
Echo's not dead.
She's not dead, but didn't she just shoot Kingpin in the face?
She did shoot Kingpin in the face. Yeah, but that wasn't a child murder.
So children can murder? Is that what we're saying?
No, Echo was an adult in Hawkeye. Echo was in her 20s at least.
She's like 17 or something, right?
No, she was in her 20s at least.
It's a dark time for Disney. This is the darkest time. This is the darkest time. Rick Sanchez was not lying. These are dark episodes. Like, dude, listen, there's some things that happened in this show that I can't excuse. One, I love that they paid off the lights, bringing her ancestor to her ancestor grandfather.
A grandmother to a great grandfather.
Exactly. But there's no way you can explain this to me and tell me that this did not cause a paradox.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to clear up this paradox at all. Like, how were you the light if you were not born? For anybody that don't understand how paradoxes work, is when we create something like, if you have your grandfather has you and you go back in time and you made it so that your grandfather could have you, how can that happen if you didn't exist before you can go back in time? It's a paradox that we can't answer. So I didn't think that we would do this and then not explain it. Like, if she went back in time, which was not an illusion, she actually went back in time. Mm-hmm. And I understand there's no TVA right now, no time variance authority to stop her from doing anything. And since it's time, it has no time, because it could have been out of time or before time or later time. Time is not linear. But again, it's a paradox. So it always begs the question, well, how can that exist? And then we don't address it at all. We're just left with it.
And I feel like they could have just as easily made it to where, obviously, Aisha was from the Noor dimension. Aisha was Kamala's great grandmother. Aisha was from the Noor dimension. They could have
Okay.
easily just said that Aisha, even though Najma killed her back when they were trying to escape, they were trying to escape, and
Makes
it could have
sense. Yeah.
easily just been that Aisha was the one who, with her last breath, she like released
Put
her
some
power
lights out.
and
Since
directed
we transferring light.
right and directed her child back to her husband easily, easily. I don't. I and again introducing a new power set without any type of explanation. Why all of a sudden? Because Najma hit the bangle. Najma wasn't even using her light power. She was just using her weapon. Her weapon hit the bangle, and then it sent Kamala back in time. Why? Why? Is there's no explanation to it. The whole thing about what you
These
seek is seeking you, and that
these
was
bangles
the
ain't shit.
that was the worst explanation of that inscription on the bangle that they could have made. It just
It's
it made no
almost like
sense.
it's almost like we had two different writers. Like the first half was great, and then
Right.
like the second half was just
Everything while they were in Jersey City was perfect, on point. When they went to Karachi, that's when it all just kind of started falling apart.
and that's the bad part because now you're giving her backstory depth because again she has to learn about the Bengal and everything it represents and it stands for and where's the other Bengal? There
That's
was
what we still trying to figure out.
we're alluding to two Bengals the whole time and we don't have the other one and there's no recollection on where the other one could be. Now I know the internet's going crazy and saying, Shang-Chi's 10 bracelets are the other Bengal.
No, they're
Um,
not that. I think they're of the same origin, but they're not. They're no. They're definitely not the same thing.
these unanswered plot holes need to be addressed.
But I don't think they're plot holes. I think they're intentionally left vague so they can be answered in future MCU properties. I think that's what's going on.
That is what they did in a sense to try to make all these things. I mean, let's not get it twisted. Endgame was incredible because there was a lot of callbacks and there was a lot of tying up these storyline plot holes and loose threads.
Mm-hmm.
We Here's what I'm afraid of. You have a lot of loose threads now. And I know the Russos are an amazing dynamic duo to again, we were talking about it earlier. Their track record from Winter Soldier to Civil War to Infinity War to Endgame has been stellar. But you're giving them a lot of work to say that you're going to tie up all these not plot holes, loose
So
threads, and to
so here
make one cohesive story later on down the line because
here's the thing that I've been reading about and what kind of doesn't make me panicked about the future of the MCU as a whole, as all of these interconnecting storylines. Um, we got to Infinity War and Endgame. That took us 10 years of the MCU to tie that storyline together. Okay. And so we finished the Infinity Saga with Endgame, kind of wrap that all up. However, you decide that how you want to feel about the way that they return the Infinity Stones and what they did with everybody's story at the end of all of that. What I found out about these Marvel shows was these Phase 4 Marvel shows, um, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, She Hulk, all of these, Hawkeye, all of these shows seem so disjointed because they were all being filmed at the same time.
mm,
So you had multiple projects going on, and normally you can take an Iron Man, the original Iron Man. You can take an Iron Man. You can say, all right, well, we're going to put this post-credit scene at the end of Iron Man. Bring in Nick Fury. Nick Fury is saying, I'm going to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. Like, okay, cool. That movie came out. So we have time in between Iron Man and Thor, or Iron Man and Iron Man 2, to be able to develop these interconnecting storylines. We have time to see where do we want to go with this, right? So you have all of these different shows: Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, She Hulk,
Loki.
Moon Knight. Loki. Well, I
WandaVision.
think Loki. Well, because Loki and WandaVision was already done. That was like they were filming that back in 2020, but these were all filmed last year. So all of these Phase 4 shows, the ones that just recently came out this year. So your Hawkeye, your Miss Marvel, your Moon Knight, your She-Hulk, they're all being filmed at the same time. So they don't necessarily have that interconnectivity, outside of what we've seen in the post-credit scenes. Well, I mean, not necessarily for Moon Knight because Moon Knight was just the introduction of Jake Lockley. But now we have, that Captain Marvel and that connection, and Miss Marvel is going to show up in the Marvels. In Hawkeye, even their ending scene wasn't necessarily connected per se. I mean, they introduced Kingpin, and that's kind of interconnected with Daredevil being in, or Matt Murdock, I should say, being in Spider-Man: No Way Home. So it's small things. It's not necessarily those big post-credit scenes that allude to what the next movie is going to be before we got this post-credit scene in Miss Marvel, but it's because the writing and the filming were all happening at the same time. So if there were any type of rewrites, any type of edits, it's different productions going on. So I can see that, okay, as of right now, these are an origin story for She-Hulk, an origin story for Miss Marvel, origin story for Moon Knight. So let those stories breathe. And then when we get into the next ensemble movie, whether it be Young Avengers, whether it be well, the Thunderbolts is probably going to be a show instead of a movie, but whatever next movie, ensemble movie that we have, then we can bring all of these characters together, bring together Shang-Chi, bring together Miss Marvel, bring the new Hawkeye, bring in Moon Knight, however they come together to fight whoever the new big bad is, or even however they get introduced to each other, even if it's in just like passing. But I think we still have time in order for us to get to this Infinity War or Endgame level type event. Okay, because we're at Phase 4. This is like we're starting back over from Phase 1. We're introducing Iron Man, we're introducing Thor, we're introducing Captain America. We didn't know that they were all going to work well together as the Avengers, but the fact that we got their origins first, because we saw how you take an ensemble movie and it doesn't do as well when you're not introduced to the characters individually first. We saw how Eternals didn't do that well, or we saw how
Oh my
Justice
God.
League didn't do that well because we
Oh
didn't
my God again.
we didn't care about the characters because we weren't familiar with who they were. But now
Well,
we
with the
get
exception of Batman.
with the exception
Everybody
of
knows
Batman.
Batman.
Everybody knows Batman,
Everybody
everybody
knows
knows Superman. But we get Kamala's origin, we get Kate's origin, we get Jake and Mark and Steven, and we get all of their stories. And so we're going into this, it's like we get to know who they are first. And I think the problem that most people have is you go into this knowing what happened in Infinity War, knowing what happened in Endgame, how monumental that was, how phenomenal that was, what a spectacle
Mm-hmm.
that was, and then you're like, okay, I want more of that. But you can't get more of that without having those building blocks and that 10 years of character development from these
Mm-hmm.
characters before you can get that in game level event. So I, for one, and this
Oh,
is just me personally,
mhm.
I know that it's going to be a little bit of slow going in the beginning. So I am patiently waiting for that next ensemble project so I can see how it all fits together.
I know they're building to something. I know they're building a king. I know they're building to maybe even Annihilus and the Annihilation Wave. I know they're building the Secret Wars. I know they're building the Battle World. I know they're building the Doctor Doom. I know they're building with the X Men. They clearly made Kamala a mutant
Mm-hmm.
versus an inhuman that she is in the comics. They made her a mutant now just to titilize and teach people that the X Men are coming. And that's great. That's great. I'm a huge X Men fan, but you're gonna have to put this villain on. I think they're putting a lot of weight on Jonathan Major's shoulders. And don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal actor. I'm pretty sure he can carry the load. But
Mm-hmm.
you're putting a lot of weight on his shoulders to be a menacing king across multiple heroes. And you're going to want to see that. I mean, Captain Marvel and King, because you can't not. this is what I'm saying. You have the decks is stacked against Kane, and there's going to be probably many different versions of Kane. I can't see how they wouldn't be. He can control time and dimensions, and
Do
he has
you
future tech.
do you think that Kang is going to be the big threat in the Marvels? Because what I'm thinking of is because we didn't really get to see Thanos be Thanos until Infinity War. But I know Kang is going to be the main antagonist in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So and we're getting
Can't
so
see
far
how
we're
he
getting so
wouldn't.
far away
No,
from Miss Marvel.
well, that just goddamn let you know about Miss Marvel, what she's doing. She ain't doing shit. We talking about other stuff. No, what I'm saying is you can't make it's not. It's kind of like the Age of Ultron, which really wasn't an age. It was like a week, maybe 2 weeks. But as you see from What If, that Ultron or that Ultimate Ultron is like potentially out there. So even though he's not doing the Age of Ultron on 616, he can be doing it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different variations of Kang throughout the universe, throughout the multiverse, which again was explained in Loki. You're gonna get different variations of him, and I can't see how you can just put it all in one movie. He's gonna have to be spread out to be a common thread across everyone. If not, then why do we care if he's menacing or not? Just like oh well, like Zeus said, that's kind of your thing in Zeus and Love and Thunder. It's like, yeah,
Asgardian problems are Asgardian problems.
right. You got to look after your own people, right? So, I mean, it's a shitty response, but at the same time, it's like there's no other shepherd that's coming to help you shepherd your flock of sheep. They get loose. They get loose. That's on you. And that's kind of like it will feel that way if we didn't have like all the heroes having to come together and do. I don't know where they're going. I don't know exactly how they're gonna lay it out, and I'm excited to see. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Marvel fan, obviously, but I would like them to start to connect the dots sooner rather than later
Mm-hmm.
because I don't care about Moon Knight, and don't get me wrong, I should care about Moon Knight with all the shit that he's gone through. As much as I like Kamala, I don't really give a shit about Kamala's situation. I mean, at the end of the movie, she's not even in the situation. She's sitting on a light pole, and we really didn't have a formidable villain for her to go up against. She didn't really. How has she changed? Does she understand where the bangle came from, and she was the light that kind of connected her? She, I don't feel like she's gone through anything really. She has a crush on a boy. She really liked the boy. He's gone back
Uh-huh.
to Pakistan. Like she has superpowers now. She has more control over her powers, but how is okay, so last gripe, right? Another thing I didn't really care for. Starting off in the series, her mom was super strict. She was
Right.
strict. She couldn't go to the park. And then they go to Pakistan, or they go to where did they go?
It was Pakistan. It was Karachi in
Okay,
Pakistan. Yeah.
so Karachi in Pakistan, and she had a heart to heart with her mom. And then she comes back home, and everything is okay now. Not only can your daughter go where she wants to go, you made her uniform, and she has your blessings, and you're encouraging your husband because we trust her, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go back to the early episodes, she was the main one. Like, nope, I don't trust her. Nope, I don't trust her at all. But nothing really happened between then and then. I guess she saw her use her powers, but she came in at the end of seeing her use her powers. She didn't see her do like incredible stuff. She saw it at the climax of the fight scene, right? She didn't really. It's not. Whew, it has some things, some mechanics. I won't say it has some major issues, but there's some
Mm-hmm.
mechanics. It's just the turns. were just sudden and
Right.
not really flushed out. Like, let's have that conversation. I mean, don't get me wrong. Her dad was like, "I want you to be careful. You know, you're gonna be a superhero. You're gonna have to be careful."
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like that should have came more from her mom than her dad. And don't get me wrong, I understand it's parenting. Like her mom made her the uniform, her dad gave her the name. But I just feel like it was more focused on mother daughter than father daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got a disconnect when it was him telling her to be careful because he never really not supported her. He supported her the whole way. He was even going to go to Comic Con with her dressed as the Hulk. It was the mom, which I won't say she wasn't supportive because she did make the first Hulk costume,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, you weren't going if your dad wasn't going.
Right.
So it was really, I don't trust you. So what changed to make her like, not only you have my blessings to go, I made you this uniform, go save the world or go save, the stakes are really low in this one. So go
Go
save the
save Jersey
neighborhood.
City. Right.
Yeah, go save Jersey City.
No.
And I
Yeah.
just, it was so abrupt.
No. I 100% agree with you. Um, and I think it's the issue of this whole 6 episode series thing that MCU and Disney
Uh,
Plus has going on is just that
I don't know why we
in
do that.
order to complete the arc for this person, when you have so many additional characters in the show and all of those characters need to have some type of character development, it was very brief. And I agree with what you're saying 100%, but I know it was very brief, the conversation that Kamala's mom and her grandmother were having, and they were sort of going, and how Kamala's grandmother was like, I was trying to tell you all of these things, but you were dismissing me as, you're being fantastical, you're being crazy, you're just, and kind of just like brushing it all off. And then they had that very brief moment of when they were looking through the photo album and they saw how Kamala's mom was dressed when she was young, and how her grandmother was telling Kamala, oh, your mom used to be a rebel, she used to sneak out, she snuck out to go see uh Bon Jovi in concert.
Bon
Right.
Jovi.
And all this other kind of stuff. And so it's like you got a brief glimpse of Kamala realizing that, oh, my mom was the same as I was, kind of rebellious, didn't want to listen to her parents, all this other kind of stuff. And there was a very, just a brief moment of Kamala and her mom coming to this sort of understanding, like, yes, I do understand that you have now, especially when this came after she saw that she had powers, but I understand that you have these things that you want to do, and I may not necessarily agree with them, but I will support you in doing them. I don't want you to think that I, have anything against you doing these things, but I just want you to be careful because I know how dangerous it is. So it was like all of these things were implied, but they went unsaid, but they should have been said. And I agree with what you're saying, that all of this character development should have been shown, it should have been said, so that way when they got back to Jersey City and her mom came in like, oh, I have a gift for you and it's this uniform that I've made for you, it would have made more sense because they had a conversation. If they even would have had like a bit of an argument, and just having Kamala be able to try to express her point as to why she needs to do this. Like she told Bruno, it's never the brown girls from, or the superheroes never come to Jersey City. They never, it's not the brown girls that save Jersey City. Like, there are no superheroes that look like me. There are no superheroes in our area. We have to defend for ourselves. We have to protect ourselves, which they shown how the community was behind her 100% ever since she introduced herself. Well, not introduced herself, but ever since she first exhibited her powers at Avengers Con. Jersey City was behind her the whole way. So they were always supporting her. And
Right.
so to be able to have Kamala be like, look, the city supports me. The city needs a hero because all of this stuff is happening. The Avengers are nowhere to be found. It's like, we have to have somebody to protect us. Just being able to
Oh,
have
the
that
Avengers is
discussion,
still a thing?
who knows? I mean,
They broke up like
if
the Beatles.
for the 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 uninitiated, the common person living in that world, to their knowledge, Of course, the Avengers are still together. They don't. All they see is whenever there's a big threat, heroes come out. The Avengers are here, so they don't know what's going on in the day to day world of the Avengers. Because I mean, they're together at some in some capacity. Because at the end of Shang-Chi, Wong contacted Bruce and Wanda. I mean, not Wanda. Bruce and Captain Marvel. So they're in some type of
Hey, you
communication.
get Captain Marvel names right, goddamn it! You don't do that. We're not doing that.
There's some type of communication still going on between them. They may not be officially together as the Avengers, but of course, if there's some big world-ending threat, then that's gonna, because that's what essentially brought the Avengers together in the first place. There was a world-ending threat.
In space.
Right.
Nick Fury is in space. Captain Marvel is in space. Well, now she's in Jersey City, but she was in space. Mm-hmm. We got to figure out how is this transporting happening.
Right.
Hulk had a bum arm, but now in She-Hulk, his arm is fixed. No clue. Thor is trying to find himself after 1,500 years off planet. Mm-hmm. Steve Rogers is clearly retired. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's up in space with Nick Fury. I could see that being old man Steve and Nick Fury up there kind of running shit together. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, Tony Stark is dead. Now, if you want to go extended, you got War Machine, which Armored Wars is coming up. Can't wait to see that. Don Cheadle is a phenomenal actor. I can't wait to see what he does with this role. You take the handcuffs off because there's nobody holding him back in this, and I hope they let him do what he does. So you got Armored Wars with War Machine, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They confirmed that they're doing a Captain America 4 with Sam Wilson. Anthony Mackie is the new. Will Sebastian Stan be in it? Will we get Winter Soldier in as well? Good question. There's so many places that he can go. He can go back to Wakanda. He can go. Will Captain America go to Wakanda? Clearly, they know about each other, and he got his new uniform. It's made of vibranium. Mm-hmm. I'm saying all this stuff because there's really no Avengers. I mean, Hawkeye's retired. Natasha Romanoff is deceased. So there's really nobody there. Spider-Man, who was appointed as an Avenger, nobody even remember who Peter Parker is. So can't really call him unless you just, see Spider-Man and be like, hey, Spider-Man, come join the Avengers. He's like, I'm already on the Avengers. Oh, you don't remember me. Okay, never mind.
I mean, really, Tony was the only one that knew that Spider-Man was an Avenger.
So who's calling them? Who's bringing the Avengers together?
Well,
Nick from space?
But I mean, Wong brought Shang-Chi into the Sanctum Sanctorum. He talked to him about the 10 rings, and they talked to Bruce and talked to Captain Marvel. So that's at least 4 different people that are in communication with each other. And
is Wong an Avenger? Let's go ahead and get this out the way right now. Wong is a sorcerer.
Right, and so is Doctor Strange. But the thing about it is, when they were at the big battle in Endgame, everybody came through the portal. Captain America said, "Avengers, assemble," and that was everybody. So maybe not in an official capacity where Wong has a room in Avengers Tower, but he's still part of the team. But he's still part of the team.
Sorcerer Supreme.
Do you have to be officially appointed? Do you have to be officially appointed to be a part of the Avengers?
Spider-Man was.
That was a ceremonial
Guardians of the Galaxy are not Avengers. Guardians of the Galaxy are Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
So, as Guardians of the Galaxy is the same thing. The Revengers are the Revengers.
I think
I'm just saying.
But what I'm saying is that you came in
when Clint talked to the Scarlet Witch. He says, "When you come out of here, you're an Avenger." So all these other guys are kind of, you ain't get the head nod from an actual Avenger. You just Ant-Man.
You saying Ant-Man's not an Avenger now?
Well, he actually is. Well, no, he isn't. Well, in a sense, is he? Steve Rogers brought him in.
So is he not an
He was
Avenger?
he was brought in by Clint. No, he was brought in by Falcon, right?
Yeah.
No, Clint
I
brought
mean,
him in.
no,
Clint found
Falcon
him,
recommended him because Falcon said, I know a guy.
right?
So
I
Falcon was
know
the
a
one that
guy.
recommended him to the team.
And then Clint found him. Because
Clint
he
was
was
the
like,
one that
"Where's the other
retrieved him.
guy?" He's like, "Yeah, well, when you need somebody to retrieve, you call Clint." Clearly, because they sent him to go get Wanda.
Right.
He's your guy. He's gonna go get him. So I would love to see him go get Natasha back. That one movie right there
That's
is just
fucked up.
him
That's fucked up.
going to get her back. Yeah,
That's fucked up.
I need Marvel to give me a check.
Dead. She's dead. She's gone. She's not coming back. Unless you
Nobody's
bring
dead
her
in
back
comics.
from another universe.
Well, and what if they clearly should?
Yeah, so you're gonna send Clint to another universe and bring
Why not?
Natasha
You
back?
sent them time traveling to bring a baseball glove back.
And that's when Natasha died.
That didn't happen on his watch. That just happened because he wasn't fast enough to kill himself. Which again,
That sounds
right
so
there.
dark. That whole statement just sounds so dark and horrible.
We're in the darkest times of the MCU, bro. This is what's going on in the MCU.
Regardless, let's get back to the subject at hand.
Marvel.
We're
Yes,
talking about Miss Marvel.
Marvel.
So let's answer the question because we've been going on a little long. But let's answer the question for the Disney Plus series Miss Marvel. Mr. VIP Frankie Washington, is Miss Marvel super?
Can I overlook the technical things?
I mean, it's your opinion.
Listen, Miss Marvel is worth watching. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's worth watching. I'm not gonna say it's not. It's very tastefully done. What are you laughing at? What's
Because
going
that's
on?
not answering a question.
Well, of course it is. Of course it is. That may not be the answer that you want.
No,
But
it's a yes or no question. Is Miss Marvel super?
God damn it, Spider. For those who don't know, super for me is being able to walk away from the series feeling like I gained something, feeling like the narrative was pushed. Not without its hiccups, I'm gonna say yes, it was super.
Okay.
I know it's shocking to say Mr. VIP saying, what? It's super? Yes, get it all out your system. There are some super elements in this show. And I think we fumbled at the end and we stuck the landing with Brie Larson. I'm sorry. You brought Brie Larson in and whoever idea was to do that, they did good. And not to say just because I'm a Brie Larson fan or a Captain Marvel fan.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
It's because like 98%. But the other 2%, other 2% is bringing up good questions. It brought up intrigue. Like, why is she here? What's going on with her? And it's starting to pull you back into the main continuity of the MCU, which is something that I've been begging for in a lot of these shows. Mm-hmm. Which, to me, it felt like it didn't undercut anything Ms. Marvel did in her whole show.
Right.
But it did kind of get me interested more to see the Marvels or to see the greater MCU. Just that one cameo. Because the way they been and like she was hanging out of Ms. Marvel's window and was like, "What's up?" Or like, "Hey, I heard you like my shit. Like and subscribe." It could have been done so cheesy. Now the way it happened is like, what's going on? Like how did because Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel don't teleport, so it's like, what's going on? It's more interesting to see now than it was to see her come back and say, "Where's Fury?"
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm pulled in now. And I think I'm not going to say they stuck the landing because, again, you got Bruno slipping in the letter. Clearly, he was saying everything he wanted to say that he couldn't say to her. like, hey, I like you. I'm sorry. I'm going to take this opportunity to go to college away. And I wish we could be closer. Let's stay in touch. And then you undercut that for the mutant reveal. So that was kind of weird.
Right.
And you stole Cameron's car, but it's a Porsche, so he's not going to miss it. I mean, he gave it to him, right? Are you
So
frozen?
Bruno
Looks
says.
like you're frozen. So if you're frozen.
I'm not frozen. But,
excuse me, sorry. He gave him the Porsche, and then he got a car out the deal that he's taking to college. Congratulations. I would like to see that come back around again.
But did he take it, though?
The landing was stuck, not really stuck, but the intrigue was there when you drop Brie Larson in, when you drop Captain Marvel in. I got curious about what's coming up next.
So, take 3 on that. It's a bad day. It's a bad day.
Captain Marvel saved the day, and it didn't undercut. It didn't undercut anything Kamala went through or is going through. I think they could have did it very cheesy. They did it very intriguing. I'm intrigued. I want to see where it goes. Is it super? Yes, it's super. Not without its flaws. So let that be a lesson. You can be flawed and still be super.
Put that on the shirt.
We all are flawed. Yeah. We all are flawed. I'm flawed. I'm very flawed. I'm flawed up. But I'm still super. Like this show. Smarter. Let the people know, because clearly if we don't, we might not be able to with the technical difficulties that we're having. Ms. Marvel, Disney Plus, is it super?
I agree with you 100%. Like you say, it's not without its flaws, but yes, it is a super show. I appreciate, just like how we were talking about with Moon Knight, how it brought to light the issues of dissociative identity disorder, and how it brought to light some backgrounds and historical, references to Egyptian culture. I feel like Miss Marvel did the same thing. It brought us to the Pakistani Indian culture. It showed us this really, really well done family dynamic. Even though we talked about the character switches or the attitude switches with the mom at the end of the season, that entire family, I would love to be a part of that family, even though, at the beginning the parents were a little overprotective, but you have,
I don't like how they brought everybody together at the end. It just seemed like, but I understand they were trying to wrap it up. It's
right.
Like the friend was there, then the brother was there. Like, how did everybody know? Because no one knew where they were going.
I don't even know how Damage Control knew that they were in the high school. It's like they gave no kind of inclination that that's where they were going. But Zoe just popped up out of nowhere. She was like, "Oh, I was in the theater because that's where I film all my TikToks because they have great lighting." Like, you're in the school on a Saturday, just filming
on a Saturday. At night. We went from day to night with no explanation. We just went day, night.
And then they're in the gym or the cafeteria or whatever going through their plans, and the brother just shows up. I'm like, how did you get in here? Oh, I went to school here too. You don't think I know how to sneak into the high school? How did you know they were going to the high school? But
exactly.
Regardless.
Things like that. That's the type of stuff that we're talking about. But,
it's the stuff that just kind of just doesn't make sense. It's fun and also the kind of stuff. We understand that for whatever reason you needed to bring everybody together to show that they all supported Kamala. But in the sense of storytelling, it doesn't make any sense. But regardless of that, the family was fun. They were super supportive of Kamala being a superhero, which is not something that you normally see in these types of shows. It's always the teenager has to sneak and try to go be a vigilante, or try to go save the city behind their parents' back. And then when parents find out, they're all upset and then they reprimand them or whatever. But just the family dynamics, the friends dynamics, everyone was super supportive. But again, it showed those... And I know what people complain about is like, oh, because they were in a mosque, they were showing the Muslim faith. It was like, oh, you're throwing their religion in our face or whatever, and all this other kind of stuff.
Oh, come on, man!
I felt like it was tastefully done, even when
very tasteful.
They didn't, and this is the good thing about having showrunners who are of an Indian descent, writers who have a Pakistani descent. You are not having these people who are writing these characters and putting them in the stereotypical light. The Sheik could have, rightfully so, been very upset when Agent Devers showed up into the mosque, not once but twice, and
with her shoes on, yes,
completely like disregarding their faith, their customs, their beliefs, all this other kind of stuff. He could have been upset, he could have been angry, he could have played the stereotypical person of color trying to lash out at the white person.
The man offered cookies. The secret sauce is in nutmeg. I want some of them cookies. I want some of them nutmeg real chocolate chip cookies.
Very gracious, very hospitable. He's like, you're looking for a brown person. It's like, everybody show their IDs. Like, we know the drill. We know that you're prejudiced against us. We're not angry at you. We know how this country is. But it's like people who don't experience those things don't get to see those things on a regular basis. For them to highlight the type of prejudices that this show or that people of color have to deal with on a fairly consistent basis, you get to see that in this type of show. And that's where that representation, that inclusivity comes in, because we don't get to see that in normal property. So kudos to Miss Marvel, kudos to the directors, the showrunners, the writers, for being able to tell that part of the story. Really appreciate that. And it's stuff like that that makes the show super for me, because it's something different. It's not the same cookie cutter thing, and it's a cookie cutter in formula because it's a superhero origin story, and so they all kind of follow these arcs. Oh, we see them as a normal person. They discover that they have this special type of ability. They go through these challenges. They rise. They think they're rising, and then they fall. Then they go through some type of internal struggle. They have a conversation with someone who they're close to, gives them the inspiration. Boom, they go up again. Now they're loved, and they go and continue on with their stories. It's formulaic in a sense, but the in-between, all of the in-between scenes with that's what I appreciate about Miss Marvel, and that's what I think it makes it a super show. And like Mr. VIP Frankie Washington said, having Carol Danvers come into at the end and give that interconnective tissue to the greater world of the MCU, that was like, okay, now I'm ready to see what else is going to happen with this story. I feel like we got Kamala's origin. It was like, okay, this is where she was. I even like the little training montage. The CGI was a little off in some areas. And another thing that I kind of wanted to mention that was a little off is the her using the word embiggen when she was in the final episode. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Kamala and Miss Marvel as a character, for the uninitiated, she called, or in the comics, she refers to her powers being able to, as she's an Inhuman in the comics, and she can basically grow her body, she can stretch her body, she can make her body bigger exponentially, but she calls that embiggening. Mm-hmm. So she'll say embiggen when she's getting bigger. But there was no reference to that made in the show. It was just, if you didn't know what embiggen meant, you just see her, or you hear her say embiggen, and you was like, what does that mean? There's no reference to it in the show, and it's just like we said.
I read you scream out Elastigirl from Incredible. Elastigirl!
And it's just stuff like that just it kind of takes away from, because like we are a little bit more familiar than the people who watch MCU shows because they're fans of the MCU but have no reference for the comics. And it's just those little things, those nods that are put in for us who are familiar with the character. You don't want to alienate those who are not familiar with the character. Yes, people who are not familiar with the character, that's a sense of having this show in order for them to understand who Kamala is as a person, who Miss Marvel is as a superhero. So we do understand that part, but it's those little things that might have somebody just kind of get put off of it a little bit. It's like, oh, I didn't understand that. That didn't make sense to me. And it's for those little things you just need, at least, if you're going to include that in the show, make some reference to it as to, just get her like trying out catchphrases like in Thor Love and Thunder. Jane was like,
don't do that. Oh my God.
But I'm saying, it's like, at least in Thor Love and Thunder, Jane was like, here's the hammer. Boom, I'm dropping the hammer. Boom, it's like, I'm trying catchphrases. So when she said, taste my hammer at the end, you was like, okay, I can see.
It was horrible.
It was horrible, but at least it made sense. It made sense because they alluded to it, and then there was a callback to her trying out you know, if they need color, let's bring the rainbow. And you know, like they alluded to all of these catchphrases and stuff in the beginning of the movie.
It sounds like a horrible porn. It's like kiss my hammer. Like, ooh.
They were, yes, they were bad.
Kids.
They were bad.
They were all bad. And then the one that was supposedly good, we didn't even get to hear. You know what? Fuck you, movie. Not this show.
Well, all I'm saying is that if you're going to drop a reference like that, there needs to be some type of explanation to it beforehand. You know, at some point when she was doing her training montage, you know, even if she didn't say it in the beginning, she was like, you could tell Bruno when they're training, like, what do you think about having a catchphrase? And Bruno's like, that's dumb. You know, just kind of like an offhanded comment, something just to kind of throw it away. But regardless of all of that, you know, we talked about the few pacing issues and how things kind of didn't make sense. We talked about the characters' motivation and how some of that didn't make sense. But still, all in all, at the end of the day, it's a good show. Like Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington said, you should watch it. You should see it. It's going to lend into
only 6 episodes. You're not gonna, you know, you can watch it in a day.
Exactly, and it's gonna lend into the Marvel. So if you are a big MCU movie fan, you can at least get a little insight into the character before she comes back in the Marvels. But in addition to what's going to happen in the Marvels and having Carol Danvers become a part of the show, I'm also interested in now they have this mutant turn, because they dropped that little nugget in at the end of the show that Miss Marvel is a mutant because something is in her genes, how it's not a part of anybody else in her family and just her. Don't know how that's happening, but we'll see. But I think my internet is going out again, so I'm going to wrap with this. If you like the video, despite all of our internet connectivity issues and freezing, because Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington, is frozen right now, and it goes out again.
Don't hold back. Just let him have it.
I'm going to wrap with this. I am going to wrap with this. I'm going to do some movie magic, and I'm going to cut around it, and I'm going to edit it. You know what? I'm getting my audio recorded. So we're going to say this. If you like the video, go ahead, like it. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell so you can be notified when we're releasing a new video. If you want the audio version, you can find us on all major podcast streaming services. And if you want to join the conversation, you can tweet at us at ATSuperPod. I'm going to just say thank you so much for joining us this week before all of this gets shut down again. We'll see you all next week for a new episode, but thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.